Hi all, this screencast is to help you to select your 16 images for your expressive grid portrait, drag them all into Photoshop, and edit them for black and white brightness and contrast. So I'm actually going to use Anna's photos of Caleb for this particular example, if that's okay. I have her photos open. And I have all 16 of them already right here. So if you haven't gone through and selected your best 16, that's what you should be doing before you actually drag them into Photoshop. So I have all 16 selected, and again, I can just take my mouse and select up like this. I can click on the first one and press Shift on my keyboard and click on the last one to select them all, however you guys want to do it. If you'd like to see them bigger to make sure that they're in focus and that they're good, you can always right-click here and say Open with Preview, and open them into a preview so you can see them much larger, and you can actually scroll through them this way if you'd like to. And it looks like the majority of these are in focus and the lighting is good. They've got a couple different color backdrops, but it should be okay. We can always arrange them in the grid that way. Okay, so I'm going to X out of that. I've got all my photos selected and I'm going to drag them into my Photoshop. It's going to take a little bit for it to open all 16 images, but that's okay. We got this couple minutes to wait here, get all these lovely pictures of Caleb uploaded to our Photoshop program. All right. The other thing I want you guys to be sure to do is you're going to be editing all of these. So I would actually make a new folder on your desktop that's called Squares. And then I would make a new folder on your desktop called Final Portrait Grid. Okay, so this one I'm calling Squares. Oopsie. If I could spell in front of you right now. Okay, and this one is called Final Portrait Grid. So I want all of my photos that I edit to end up in squares, and then I want my final portrait grid to end up in here. Okay, so I've opened up all my files in Photoshop, so I'm just going to open up Photoshop again. I'm just going to start with the first one. Again, you can click on this double arrow up here to start with the first one. You guys are going to be cropping these into a square, so the first thing I'd like you to do is go to your crop tool and make sure you go up to ratio and select a 1:1 square ratio. And here you can just drag your photo around. You can crop in a little bit if you have a lot of extra space that you don't want. And just make sure that your subject is centered. All right, this is a pretty funny one that I'm dealing with right now of Caleb. So once you hit you get your correct dimensions going, you can either hit the plus up here or you can hit return on your keyboard to accept the crop. And the next thing I'm going to do is go to my layers palette, and I'm going to make a black and white adjustment layer to turn the photo black and white, and I'm going to make a curves layer to create some brightness and some contrast. So I'm going to create a pin here and maybe darken this up a little bit because it's a pretty dark, bright photo. I'm going to pin here and maybe create a little bit more dark in the shadows down here. And then I'm going to work with this gray a little bit because it's pretty gray. I want to create contrast. See how that's obviously making him look a little funky and gray? I'm going to bring this down to create a little bit more contrast in this particular photo. Okay, and the background is never going to be white because we shot this particular photo on a red background. All right, just want his face to kind of stand out against the background here. All right, so here's the difference. Okay, and then when you save these, and I know 16 is a lot, but when you save these, you don't need to save them as Photoshop documents because we're going to take all of these 16 photos and put them into a Photoshop document, okay? And that's the next video I'm going to show you how to do. So when you go up to save, go to Save As. You want to save it as a JPEG, and I'm going to put it into that squares photo that I created, or folder that I created. So right now I'm just going to throw it on the desktop, save it as a JPEG. If your name is on them, which it should have been, we are going to save it as a JPEG copy, desktop, JPEG, hit save, hit OK. And I should be able to select that folder the next time I make an edit. So for now, I'm just going to throw that into my squares folder on my desktop. And I'll move on to the next one. Right? So I'm going to go for one that has a white background. So this may be one where, yeah, this one's pretty cool. So I still have my square selected. I have my crop tool selected. I'm obviously going to, oopsie, pull my image into the box. All right. Maybe crop in just a little bit more so I don't have so much space on the left-hand side there. And I'm going to hit return. I'm going to go to my adjustments layers little button right here, create a black and white layer. I'm going to then create a curves layer, and here you might get a better sense of how to add some curves. So I'm going to brighten this up just a little bit to make that background a little bit brighter, and I'm going to bring in a little bit more black to create some more contrast, and then play around with that gray a little bit. Bring the gray down just a little bit, the white up just a little bit. Right. See that contrast? Now we can see like all his jawline, all the like, sadness in his face and his shirt and all of that. So it just creates a little bit more contrast, right? So I'm going to go up to File, I'm going to go to Save As, and I'm going to say, and again, yours should already be labeled. I'm just labeling hers for right now. Format JPEG. I'm going to select the Squares folder. Oh, even if you can't select it, just put it on your desktop and throw it in there. Hit Save. Hit OK. So this is how fast you guys can be working with all 16. So I've just done 2 in about 30 seconds. So you guys should be able to edit all 16 hopefully within a day or two. And I'm going to throw that one into my Squares folder. Okay. So from there, I will show you how to create your grid in the second video. So this is just editing all 16 photos for black and white and for curves and putting them into a folder on the desktop. All right. See you later.